Look, this is a great thing. For Israel, think about this.
All I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO.
It's going to require the Iranians play it smart from here.
Biden let a lot of supersonics, and Biden was an incompetent president and had no idea what he was doing. He hardly ever signed a document.
He has done more than any president in American history to secure our border and the largest mass deportation operation of illegal criminals, many of them known terrorists that Joe Biden led into this country.
Caroline, but no specific threat yet in any city or any state or any building?
Not that I'm tracking.
But I just want to read this fully so I get the context here.
Are you still committed to Article 5 of NATO?
Depends on your definition. There's numerous definitions of Article 5. You know that, right?
There's definitely some symbolism to this.
But I'm committed to being their friend.
He's laid out the framework here.
You know, I've become friends with many of those leaders, and I'm committed to helping them.
Your comments just now about Article 5, that will probably make some people in Europe concerned.
I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target.
You can see the night skies over Doha right now, and there are explosions in the air. Some of those may be air defense missiles.
Now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. Ridiculous.
There had been warnings to U.S. embassy staff to shelter in place and at other embassies across Doha.
I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal.
You know, 6 missiles may not sound a lot to some people because they can do so much damage.
They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong.
We don't really exactly know what they have. Maybe they're not running that low. But with precision, 6 missiles are a lot.
But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot.
The president taking to Truth Social just a short while ago, he says Iran has officially responded to our obliteration of their nuclear facilities with a very weak response, which we expected and have very effectively countered. There have been 14 missiles fired. 13 were knocked down. 1 was set free because it was headed in a non-threatening direction.
And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere.
I am pleased to report that no Americans were harmed and hardly any damage was done. Most importantly, they've gotten it all out of their system, and there will hopefully be no further hate.
That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either.
I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured.
All I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO.
Perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region, and I will enthusiastically encourage Israel to do the same.
I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Thank you for your attention in this matter. The president also goes on to thank the government of Qatar for what it has done in seeking peace for the region.
Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Regarding the attack today at the base in Qatar, I'm pleased to report that in addition to no Americans being killed or wounded, very importantly, there have been no Qataris killed or wounded.
As soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before.
So the president indicating in that first post that he had on Truth Social there that he did get a heads up, the United States did get a heads up on this attack, according to the president, and then he's hoping that this is a bit of an off-ramp here, a way to de-escalate this whole thing. He says he's ready for peace.
You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour.
So Iran indicating with an attack on a hardened position in the Middle East that the U.S. got a tip-off from beforehand, or an indication that this attack was coming, is a way for Iran to say, we've settled the score here, nobody's gotten hurt, let's move forward.
The one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land, I'm not happy about that.
Just seconds ago, the president went to Truth Social and typed this. Complete and total ceasefire is what he typed.
Yep.
What does that mean?
Well, we were actually working on that just as I left the White House to come over here, so that's good news that the president was able to get that across the finish line.
You know what, we basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what they're doing. Do you understand that?
The president is pleased.
And I think what it means, Brett, is quite simple. First of all, the president, without, knock on wood, having a single American casualty, obliterated the Iranian nuclear program.
The president does not know. The president of the United States does not know if this ceasefire is still in effect.
We are now in a place where we weren't a week ago.
The country is pleased.
Iran is incapable of building a nuclear weapon with the equipment they have because we destroyed it.
And frankly, Brian, the whole world should be pleased.
So that's a very, very big thing.
This is an operation that presidents of the past have dreamed about.
While we have obliterated the Iranian nuclear program, our hope and our expectation is that they're not going to try to rebuild that program.
But no president had the guts to actually do it. But President Trump did.
And I think that's what the president is really trying to figure out here.
President Trump just a short time ago saying that Israel and Iran have agreed to a, quote, complete and total ceasefire set to begin in about 6 hours. This coming on the heels of days of escalating tensions in the region.
He's used to Democrats fighting against him. How much harder was the decision when you have people like Steve Bannon coming over for lunch saying don't do it, Marjorie Taylor Greene saying don't do it?
What else is the president saying about this ceasefire?
Is to build a long-term settlement here to where we can have peace.
One of the great things that makes President Trump a great leader is his ability to listen to people with different perspectives, but then ultimately make a decision based on his own instinct and the intelligence.
I want to get to the obliterated part in just a minute, but I just want to read this fully so I get the context here. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point, the ceasefire for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel, God bless Iran, God bless Iran, God bless the Middle East, God bless the United States of America, and God bless the world. He seems confident that this is all coming together.
He's laid out the framework here. It's scheduled to start in the next 6 hours or so.
Were you thinking this was all gelling here?
I thought that we might be able to get it across the finish line before this broadcast, and it looks like the president has been able to do that.
According to the president, the agreement involves 2 12-hour ceasefire periods.
Look, this is a great thing. For Israel, think about this.
Iran initiating the first 12 hours, Israel following with the second 12 hours. And that, in the president's words, should wrap this conflict that has lasted for the past 12 days.
I think this is a new opportunity to actually pursue the path of peace. As I said yesterday, the president really hit the reset button and said, look.
We have breaking news. Everything good? Israel, as you know, turned back. They didn't do that raid this morning.
President Trump has been saying his entire life, not just as a presidential candidate or as president of the United States twice, but also as a private citizen.
They're kind of threading the needle here of, the conflict and trying to end it as it is continuing to go on.
I actually think when we look back, we will say the 12-day war was an important reset moment for the entire region.
That's something that leaders around this world and on both sides of the political aisle agree with.
Fortunately, that was a big thing. Appreciate it. They hit him very hard after we made the deal yesterday. They were entitled to, but nobody thought that would have happened.
Some of the officials I've been talking to are saying that this is exactly what they predicted would happen over the weekend when we saw lawmakers, critics of the president, saying that this was going to spiral out of control.
How would the communication have been with the Iranians to get this level of confidence to put out that detailed statement?
Presidents dating back to Democrat Bill Clinton have said that Iran cannot obtain a nuclear weapon.
Said you got to turn back the planes.
Remember, it's not just the 12 days of war we're talking about. We're also looking at these high-stakes, high-level negotiations between the U.S. and Iran.
One of the things I've learned, Brett, about the Iranians in the past, 4 or 5 months that I've been in this job is what they say publicly and privately can sometimes be very different.
President Trump, he is the one who came up with that motto.
So nobody was killed. That was the story. But they had a lot of planes going in the wrong direction. You know that, right?
These next 6 hours and really the 24 hours that come after that are going to be very telling.
Their air defenses have been totally destroyed. Their nuclear program has been obliterated, as I said before. So I think the Iranians are at a place where they don't want to keep on fighting.
The president wants peace. Sometimes you have to use strength to achieve it.
Do you want any consequences for Israel or Iran for breaking?
They didn't do anything, no. they didn't do anything, they would have.
And I don't have the truth in front of me. Right now, for the American people watching, it's dark over there.
The Middle East theater is very difficult, to say the least.
Saturday night proved the United States has the best and most lethal fighting force in the history of the world, and we can use it if we must.
I put out a statement of truth, and they didn't do anything.
When the Israelis and the Iranians have been shooting at each other, I think there's some recognition that that might continue for another few hours.
There are a lot of complicated, long-standing conflicts here, so diplomats' work, it's not over yet.
Most everyone watching says it's not politically correct to use the term regime change.
Are you confident that this might not happen again? Say in a couple weeks that...
And tomorrow really is a new day. The end of the 12-day war, the end of the Iranian nuclear program.
Why wouldn't there be a regime change? Does he think we should do that?
Tired of it. I think they don't want it to happen again.
It's a very difficult region.
What if the ceasefire doesn't hold? What again if the United States gets involved in some kind of a retaliation?
Our goal was to bury the uranium, and I do think the uranium is buried.
What he said last night makes complete sense.
He thinks both sides have violated it.
And Iran's not going to have a nuclear weapon, by the way. I think it's the last thing on their mind right now.
Did Iran make any commitments yesterday about uranium enrichment?
About what?
About uranium enrichment.
They're not going to have enrichment, and they're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
If Iran is desperate to build a nuclear weapon in the future, then they're going to have to deal with a very, very powerful American military again.
By the way, why shouldn't the Iranian people take away the power of this incredibly violent regime?
We saw Iran launching 14 missiles towards Qatar at the large U.S. air base known as Al Udeid, and 13 of those missiles were intercepted.
Frustration with both Israel and Iran with what's taken place.
And they know that. They're going to get on to being a great trading nation. You know, they're very good traders. And they're going to be a great trading nation, and they have a lot of oil. They're going to do well.
Look, we can fly a bunker buster bomb from Missouri to Iran completely undetected without landing once on the ground.
Our posture has not changed. Our military posture has not changed. These were decisive precision strikes.
We heard de-escalatory language from the president in one of his social media posts.
There's no question that the brunt of his anger there was indeed being directed at the Israeli government, and it very much sounded like he planned to get on the phone to the Israeli prime minister.
They're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
So did they
The
promise?
last thing on Iran's mind right now is nuclear weapons.
We can destroy whatever.
Were you speaking on the president's behalf when you said he was not interested in regime change?
Well, Brett, what I've said is the American military, that is not our mission, is regime change.
The president is just simply raising a good question that many people around the world are asking.
I think the U.S. military officials that I've spoken to about the ceasefire, they're watching this in themselves in real time.
Can you clarify what you meant when you mentioned regime change in your Truth Social post the other night?
Which?
Regime change. Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
No. If there was, there was. But no, I don't want it.
We support freedom fighters all around the world.
When he goes to Truth Social and says it's not politically correct to use the term regime change.
I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible. Regime change takes chaos. Ideally, we don't want to see so much chaos.
Gambler Donald Trump can start a war.
I'm not sure how well informed they were that this was going to be announced by the president, but in either case, the United States is going to maintain its defensive posture.
We'll see how it does. You know, the Iranians are very good traders, very good business people, and they got a lot of oil.
But if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change?
Well, finish it. Well,
they should be fine. They should be able to rebuild and do a good job.
Could it be through a sleeper cell here?
They're never going to have nuclear.
Certainly put a stop on their ability to create a nuclear weapon. What we have not ended, obviously, is their ability to rebuild centrifuges.
But we're going to be with, where's Marco? I think Marco's here someplace. You know, our great Secretary of State.
MAGA.
Well, I think what the president is saying very clearly, Brett, is if the Iranian people want to do something about their own leadership, that's up to the Iranian people.
The last thing on their minds is nuclear weapons.
It turns out over the last 4 years, there's been over 1,500 Iranians coming through our southern border. 729 qualified for release.
They don't even want to think about nuclear. And our B-2 pilots made this all possible.
What we heard from Vice President Vance is certainly more definitive than what we heard from him over the weekend.
They had a magnificent hit. in the dark of night with no moon, no light, no nothing. They hit the target perfectly, wiped it out. And the press is very disrespectful.
Now that the 12-day war appears to be effectively over, we have an opportunity, I think, to restart a real peace process.
I saw CNN fake news going, well, maybe it wasn't a perfect hit, it was perfect.
He has done more than any president in American history to secure our border and the largest mass deportation operation of illegal criminals, many of them known terrorists that Joe Biden led into this country.
They said maybe it did destroy it. We agree it did destroy it, but maybe it could have destroyed it more. No, it couldn't have destroyed it more. Everyone
Gleaning from the vice president's latest remarks here.
It certainly is consistent, Alex, with what the president's message overall here is, with his words, with his actions, and even just in the rhetoric alone.
It's going to require the Iranians play it smart from here.
And it's very disrespectful to those great geniuses and patriots that flew those planes through tremendous danger.
Caroline, but no specific threat yet in any city or any state or any building?
Not that I'm tracking.
So CNN and MSDNC are a disgrace. And so are the others. I mean, they're pretty much all a disgrace. But it's an amazing period of time.
The administration made the decisive decision to obliterate, in their words, to attack the nuclear.
And now we're going to NATO, and we'll get a new set of problems. We'll solve a new set of problems.
The president called it very weak.
Do you think you'll meet with Zelensky when you're there?
Yeah, probably. I'll see him. Yeah.
As this operation takes place, Democrats said they were not told about it. They were left in the dark.
You say to him.
Say, how you doing?
Israel appears to be hitting Iran pretty hard right now. The IDF has issued evacuation orders for multiple districts in Tehran. And there are reports, unconfirmed reports of strikes hitting the area, other areas of the country as well.
He's in a tough situation. Should have never been there.
As the president said, they actually gave us some warning here. And we think they gave us some warning because they didn't want to kill Americans and they didn't want to escalate.
You didn't think the U.S. should have to agree to the 5% increase in GDP on defense?
No.
Do you want to?
I was the one that said that's what they should be paying, as you know.
Here is Republican Thomas Massey.
No, I should do something, and they're having a problem with Spain.
I'm curious, does any of this potentially put this ceasefire deal in jeopardy?
It certainly does.
There's always a problem with Spain. Spain's not agreeing, which is very unfair to the rest of them, right?
There's definitely some symbolism to this, Brett. If you look at the Iranian attack, it was 14 missiles that they telegraphed ahead of time. We dropped 14 bunker buster bombs, as the president told me earlier.
We should pay what everyone else, they're in Europe, we're not.
We haven't been briefed. They should have called us all back.
A lot of that money goes to rebuilding their bridges, their roads, so it can take heavy equipment.
The U.S. personnel in the region remain on high alert. They were on high alert prior to the airstrike being carried out in Iran this weekend, and they have remained even higher.
We don't have any roads in Europe. We don't have any bridges in Europe. So, no, it wouldn't be quite the same thing for us. But we're with them.
Our missiles, our bombs were a little bit bigger than their bombs.
Are you still committed to Article 5 of NATO?
Depends on your definition. There's numerous definitions of Article 5. You know that, right?
Should you have called everybody back?
But I'm committed to being their friend.
So, yes, the defensive posture of the United States in the region is being enhanced.
I've become friends with many of those leaders, and I'm committed to helping them.
The message is always delivered through some sort of intermediary. That's been consistently true of the Iranians. Of course, we'd love to talk to them.
What do you want the role of NATO to be?
I think we're going to have stronger peace, better peace.
Secretary Rubio, we do know that he has been at the White House all afternoon, working really in lockstep with the president.
When I went to NATO, they were broke when I first started this whole thing.
Again, we got to step back here. Why did the president do what he did over the past week?
Seems like a long time ago, 9 years. They were broke. I knew it immediately. I said, you guys are broke. They weren't paying their dues.
First of all, we did make bipartisan calls. Thomas Massey and the Democrats, he should be a Democrat.
7 of the 28 countries, at the time it was 28, were paying their dues, but they weren't paying very much. NATO is broke.
Rubio has been, according to sources, a key part of the decision-making. We know he was in the Situation Room over the weekend, and he's also going to accompany the president to the NATO summit.
And I said, you're going to have to pay, and we did a whole thing, and now they're They're paying a lot.
They're going to be on the wrong end of American power once again. We don't want that. I think they don't want that, but the ball's in their hands.
Then I said you're going to have to lift it to 4% or 5%, and 5% is better.
The White House made calls.
I guess they're voting on that today, but they're going to be lifting it to 5%. That's good. It gives them much more power.
The people who believe that this is going towards World War III, especially in your own party, there's a section that's very vocal.
If there's language in the final summit declaration about aggression by Russia, would you be okay with that kind of language?
They were bipartisan calls.
I'll have to take a look at it, but
and can this regime stay in place and still have a peaceful, reaction relationship with the U.S.?
I'd like to see a deal with Russia. As you know, Vladimir called me up. He said, "Can I help you with Iran?" I said, "No, I don't need help with Iran. I need help with you."
In fact, Hakeem Jeffries couldn't be reached.
I hope we're going to be getting a deal done with Russia.
Well, I think the president has squared those two sides quite well. One, because he's the leader of the movement.
It's a shame. 6,000 soldiers died last week.
We showed them the timestamps from those phone calls.
More, 6,500 soldiers died last week.
And a lot of people trust the president, as they should.
Russia, Ukraine, a war that never would have happened if I was president. So enjoy your flight.
I want to add something to Thomas Massey's false point.
Your comments just now about Article 5, that will probably make some people in Europe concerned.
They recognize they're not seeing the same intelligence, they're not seeing the same classified document.
Can you clarify what you mean? Are you still committed to mutual defense?
We gave these calls as a courtesy.
I'm committed to saving lives. I'm committed to life and safety. And I'm going to give you an exact definition when I get there. I just don't want to do it on the back of an airplane.
They trust the president to do a good job. But importantly, Brett, I think he's threaded the needle quite well here.
And the Democrats are lying about this because they can't talk about the truth of the success of that operation and the success of our United States military and the success of this president and this administration in doing something that past administrations, Democrats too, have only dreamed about.
What's your take on the oil price situation right now, and are you concerned?
I love it. It dropped almost $10 yesterday.
How often does it happen where you're going to do an interview and you get a Truth Social seconds before? You have some sense of it, but it's pretty detailed.
I put out a statement, get it down, because a lot of people aren't able to do things when the energy goes down.
President Obama did not ask for permission to bomb Libya in 2011.
That's right.
We're going to have a lot less conflict. So it came down, and our energy department's doing a great job. We're drilling like we've never drilled before. We're keeping it down.
Where you are being asked about something the president has just put out.
And we're going to keep it down until all these wars are settled.
The president will be taking off for NATO tomorrow morning.
Thank you very much, everybody else.
In this administration, Brett, it happens quite a bit, actually.
Freudian sleeper cells in the United States.
It was a little bit different from what the president had showed me a couple of hours ago.
Biden led a lot of supercells, and Biden was an incompetent president and had no idea what he was doing. He hardly ever signed a document.
I love that about this presidency and this administration, is he's always working.
Other people signed documents for him with the auto pen. It was gross incompetence.
We appreciate you coming and rolling with the punches as well.
What Biden did to this country should never be forgotten.
Sir, you think you'll get the Nobel Peace Prize now, sir?